Hockey card fans, welcome back to the channel. I went back to Heroes Cards and Comics. It was a Friday payday, and this is the closest place that has the best selection of cards. Fan of the Sport is closer to me, but they don't have as much selection for what I'm looking for. And I'm always looking for a bang for my dollar. So Heroes Cards and Comics is a pretty cool place. If you're ever in the London neighborhood, it's on Dundas Street. I think it's between Richmond and Dundas. So I went in there today and bought some 1974 O-PEE-Chee cards. This is from the 73-74 O-PEE-Chee stat year. This is Philadelphia Flyers' first Stanley Cup victory. And they're the first expansion team to win a Stanley Cup. So let's get into it. Alright, first card I have is the 73-74 quarterfinals, Rangers versus Canadiens, which the Rangers won. They knocked off the Canadiens. Montreal did not have Ken Dryden in net. Instead, they had like Michel Placé and Wayne Thomas in net. So not the best goaltending duo. I already actually have this card. I bought it as a double. I don't know why. Considering I had a list of all the cards I needed for this set in front of me, I didn't double check this one. So I'll see which one is the best quality and keep that one instead. Then we have quarterfinals, Bruins versus Maple Leafs. The Bruins won this one in 4 straight games. Greg Shepard and Bobby Smots were the leading scorers in that series. Then we go to the Blackhawks Bruins in the semifinals. Johnny Busick was the leading scorer for the Boston Bruins as they took it 4-2. So we got 2 quarterfinals and a semifinal. And then in the finals we get Flyers versus Bruins. Flyers won the series in 6 games. Bob Yar was the leading scorer, but the Conn Smythe went to Bernie Parent. The Stanley Cup champion card with the Philadelphia Flyers. See Bobby Clark in there? I'm not sure who that is. That's Schultz or whatever. But they are the Stanley Cup, so that's kind of cool. I'm missing 2 of the quarterfinal cards and 1 of the semifinal cards. The inside cards are actually expensive. They're like $2.50. In excellent condition, they're like $5. I think I didn't pay that much for these ones. They have some dings in them, these cards do. Soft corners. I'm picking the best of the group because usually with each card there's anywhere from 3 to 10 doubles. And they're mostly common cards in the box set. All the expensive cards are in display cases. This one you ask what year you want, they'll give you a box and you can go through it. Alright, so that's them. Let's start off with some players. First up, we get Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Joe Watson, the assistant captain. His brother Jim also played with the Flyers. He actually came out of the Boston Bruins farm system, but was picked up by the Flyers in the expansion draft. Won 2 Stanley Cups with the Flyers and was the backbone of their defense throughout that entire run. His last season was 78-79. He played like 16 games with the Colorado Rockies. So was released by Philly and played with Colorado. Doesn't say any trades or anything. Good, tough defenseman. Got a glare here on these cards. I can see it. Then we have goalie for the St. Louis Blues, Wayne Stevenson. He would later join the Philadelphia Flyers the following year and win a Stanley Cup as the backup to Bernie Parent. He was traded from the St. Louis Blues to Philadelphia Flyers for Randy Andreychuk and a second-round pick in the 75 draft. I'd say the Flyers won that deal. He was later released in 79-80 and went to the Washington Capitals, where he spent 2 forgettable years there. Minnesota North Stars right winger Bill Goldsworthy. These cards are not in bad shape. The cut's not good, but that's because back then they didn't cut cards like they do now with laser technology and stuff. You basically put them in an old press, sheets in a press, and it was a cutter. Press the button, the cutter goes down, that's it. So I remember my dad was a printer by trade. He used to work for the company that actually made these cards back in the late 60s. But he had to quit because of dermatitis, so he was always getting but he knew people, so he'd bring back uncut sheets. And then later he got back into the printing trade when his skin dermatitis got better. Chemicals got better. Didn't have the reaction. So Bill Goldsworthy actually was with the Boston Bruins, got picked by Minnesota in the expansion draft, and became an all-star. He scored 48 goals that year with Minnesota. And then he went to the New York Rangers, ended his career in the W with Indianapolis and Edmonton Oilers. Played with Wayne Gretzky. So a really good player in the early 70s with Minnesota. Left winger, Boston Bruins, Don Marcotte. Or Don Marcotte, I can't pronounce his name to save my life right now. He won 2 Stanley Cups with the Boston Bruins. Spent his entire career in Boston. I have his retirement card, his last card. Scored 230 goals in 868 games. And then I had another 34 goals in 132 games. Decent player. This card actually is a little bit, it's not creased, but there's a bend in it. This was probably a uncut sheet that got cut up at some point in time. Just the way it curves. Next up, we have the Detroit Red Wings coach, Alex Delvecchio. I know he's in a player jersey where he's got his captain. Thing is, in 73-74, he played 11 NHL games and then stopped playing to become the head coach. He was a mid-season replacement. Went to a 27-31-9 record with the Red Wings that first year. So they got off to a terrible start. They were out of the playoffs. He came in and coached them but never won more. That was the most he ever won, was 27 games. He coached one full season and parts of 2 others being mid-season replacements, so they could never find anyone. Eventually he went to the front office, became a general manager of the team. But it would have been nice if they found a card of him in his coach's gear. All right, we have Chicago Blackhawks defenseman Phil Russell. Phil Russell was a first-round, 13th overall draft pick by the Blackhawks in the 72 amateur draft. Played for the Blackhawks, then got traded to the Atlanta Flames, the Calgary Flames, New Jersey Devils, and Buffalo Sabres, where he ended his career in '87. So he played over 1,000 games in the NHL, but only 73 in the playoffs. He was part of a huge trade in '79 that traded from Chicago Ivan Boldarev, Darcy Rhoda to Atlanta Flames for Greg Fox, Tom Lysiak, Harold Filipoff, Pat Ribble, and Miles Zaharko. I would say Chicago lost that trade because Phil Russell and Ivan Boldarev and Darcy Rhoda were much better players than those guys. Greg Fox and Tom Lysiak were good players, but Boldarev and Russell were just better. Right winger, LA Kings, Mike Murphy. He was drafted in the second round, 25th overall in the 1970 amateur draft by the New York Rangers. Somehow he found himself with the St. Louis Blues and went back to the Rangers and the LA Kings for the rest of his career. Not a bad player, 238 goals in 831 games. 13 goals in 66 playoff games. Not a bad player there. You have left winger Stan Gilbertson, California Golden Seals. Love the jersey. He's actually part of the Boston Bruins farm system, but then somehow found his way in the Golden Seals for three seasons, and then went to the St. Louis Blues, then the Washington Capitals. We actually played 3 teams in '75. Started with the California Golden Seals for 15 games, Blues for 22 games, and the Washington Caps for 25 games. Then in '76, he was traded from Washington to Pittsburgh Penguins, where he ended his career in '77. Only played 3 playoff games, had 1 goal, 1 assist for a point, 428 regular season games with 85 goals. So not exactly a household name. Center for the California Golden Seals, Lynn Powis. This guy was a 6th round, 68th overall pick in the 1969 draft by the Montreal Canadiens. Never played with the Canadiens. Played with the Blackhawks, the Scouts, then went to the WHA and played with the Calgary Cowboys, Winnipeg Jets, and Indianapolis Racers. Did win an Avgo trophy with the Jets. He was part of the expansion draft that sent him to KC from Chicago. Because he has his, you can see his Chicago whites in the backdrop there. Now we have New York Islanders. Round 1, 1st overall pick in the '72 draft. Right winger Billy Harrison. This guy was the face of the franchise through the '70s with Dennis Potvin. Those two. This is also Dennis Potvin's rookie year, this card. And Billy Harris was a rookie in '73 in the '72-'73 set. Unfortunately, Billy Harris got traded to the LA Kings for Butch Goring in '79-80, just as the Islanders went on their 4-year run. But people think that Butch Goring was the final piece of the puzzle. Harris was actually a really good player, and it's too bad that's what happened to him. Once he went to LA, he was never the same player. Played for Toronto, tried going back to LA, didn't work. Nothing worked. 231 goals in 897 games. Most of those were with the Islanders. And then 19 goals in 71 playoff games. So, poor guy got traded. Him and Dave Lewis. Right winger, New York Rangers, Bill Fairbairn. Played for the Rangers, the Minnesota North Stars, and the Blues. Was part of their Stanley Cup run when they lost to the Boston Bruins in '72. Never could get back to the top again. So this year we're talking about 73-74. The Rangers knocked off the Canadiens in 6 games, but then they themselves got defeated in the next round. I don't know by who. I think Boston defeated them. Moving along, we got defenseman Minnesota North Stars, Fred Barrett. He was drafted in 2nd round, 20th overall in the '70 draft. Spent all but 1 season with the Minnesota North Stars. Solid defenseman, but nothing spectacular. Never 44 playoff games, never scored a goal. And only 25 goals in 745 playoff games. So not a guy who was going to score you points. Goalie for the LA Kings, Rogie Vachon. Rogation Vachon. I like that goalie pose. It's a pretty cool, good goalie pose. I like the stash. Look at the equipment, the goalie equipment. Look how ancient that looks compared to today. Him and Stevenson. There wasn't much goalie equipment there. Yet their goals against average was pretty low. Rogie, of course, won 2 Stanley Cups with the Canadiens. Once as a backup and once as the main guy before Kenny Dryden came and stole his job. Canadiens gave him a trade to LA. And in '73-'74, he had 5 shutouts, a 2.81 goals against average. He was 28, 26, and 10 with a .903 save percentage. So when they tell you that goaltending was good in the '70s. You had Dryden, you had Vachon, you had Bernie Pront, Cheevers. Those were the great goalies of the '70s. Rogie would spend a lot of years in LA, went to Detroit, and then Boston. He never had success in those 2. When he got traded, once he left LA, success left him. And finally, my last card, I have left winger, Boston Bruins, Johnny Busick. Long-time Boston Bruin. Actually started with the Detroit Red Wings back in the 50s. He won 2 Stanley Cups with the Boston Bruins and retired as a Bruin in '78. Scored 556 goals in just over 1,500 games. 41 goals in 124 playoff games. So he was almost a point-a-player guy. Won 2 Lady Byng trophies in '71 and '74. So this year he won a Lady Byng. Considering that Boston was such a tough team, he didn't get a lot of penalties. And in 1957, he was traded from the Detroit Red Wings with cash to Boston Bruins for Terry Sawchuk. Hell, both teams won that trade because Sawchuk won some Stanley Cups with Detroit, but then again, Busick won some Stanley Cups with Boston. So hard to say who won. I guess the cash, whatever the cash was for that. But there we go. We got 19 cards. One's a double, so I got 18 to add to the set. I still need a lot of cards. I still need over 100 cards to complete this set. Ironically, the Bob Gainey's rookie card is one of the most expensive cards in the set. It's worth like $200 in mint condition. I've gone on eBay and saw someone trying to sell it for $5 grand. A Bob Gainey rookie card. I'm like, come on. Dennis Potvin the biggest rookie in this set. Bob Orr's like $60, and Bob Gainey's he's worth $200. Couldn't believe that when I looked it up in the Beckett price guide. Me and the guy when I go to Heroes Cards and Comics, the old guy Glenn, he goes through the Beckett guidebook to get an idea of the pricing, and then goes by quality. So I paid $30 for this. So not bad for 18 cards. Some mostly no names, a few stars in here. And just the quality wasn't the greatest on some of them. But they're all fairly decent shape. So these range from good to excellent. These cards do. But there we have it. Still working on the 73-74 set. When I go to Heroes Cards and Comics, when I go anywhere else, it doesn't matter. I get what I can. Didn't buy anything from Villains this time, but they have lots of cards there in binders that are more modern. Anyway, all you hockey card fans out there, let me know what you guys think of this little haul. And who do you think was the best goalie of the 70s? Leave comments in the comment section. Until next time, this has been Hockey Night.